Hey everybody, we're going to talk about chapter 3, which is physical fitness. If you haven't checked out your PowerPoint, please do that. It gives you a rundown of a lot of the different topics we're going to talk about in this video. Except I'm going to kind of breeze through those topics that we hit on along the PowerPoint so you don't hear the same things over and over again. So just to reiterate, chapter 3 is about physical fitness. And there are three main components when it comes to this topic. So you've already heard me say physical fitness, physical activity, and exercise. Three completely different things. Although I understand that those terms are used synonymously, they are very different. So physical fitness, like I say in your PowerPoint, is kind of the blanket umbrella term to refer to activity, but it's also the way that we understand your level of fitness. So physical fitness can be defined of if you have a difficult time climbing the stairs or if you can go run a marathon. So those two different standards are giving us an idea of what physical fitness is about and what your physical fitness level is entirely. So that's what physical fitness is, and obviously underneath physical fitness would be physical activity and exercise, which again, I want to explain very carefully that those are very different things. We again use the words synonymously, but we should not. So please, from here on out, make sure that you're very considerate and precise whenever you're discussing physical activity or you're discussing exercise. So physical activity is basically the expenditure of caloric energy, but I'm expending caloric energy right now as we speak, sitting in this chair talking to you. So big difference between me sitting here expending caloric energy and me going and exercising. So physical activity would be things, again, like walking to class, gardening, going to the grocery store, walking around, walking your dog would be physical activity. Those sorts of measures, again, are things that we are leisurely doing that are not causing us muscle tearing or muscle repair, anything of that sort. So, differences. Exercise is, again, planned and structured activity. Planned and structured things that you plan in advance to do that you can't just necessarily do on a whim. So things like CrossFit, that's an exercise. Going swimming, we can't just randomly go swim. So that's an exercise. Going to the gym and lifting weights, that is exercise. Maybe participating in some sort of online video like a Beachbody account or Zumba, yoga, Pilates. All of those things are exercise. They're planned, they're structured. Think of structure as a format of you have 2 sets of 10 reps. That's structure. Or you have to swim in your lane for swimming and you're doing 100 meters back and forth. You're doing 10 rounds of those. That's structured. CrossFit is very structured. You have different stations you have to get to. You have different times that you have to beat, etc. So all of those things are structured. So again, that's the difference between physical activity and exercise. If you're asked, walking is not exercise. Okay, walking is not exercise. It is physical activity. So in talking about physical activity and talking about exercise, I find it very pertinent and very important to tell you that the more you work on your fitness level, the better quality of life you have and the longer you live. So a lot of research out there shows the more exercise that you can get within your day or physical activity, even the longer that we live. So it does affect your health overall, and it does affect your quality of life. Those are very accurate things, and no one is lying to you whenever they tell you that. Some other things I want to address when we're talking about physical fitness just in general. And forgive me, I'm kind of flipping through your book just to kind of make mental notes as I go along to guide you, is the difference that you're going to notice in your book on page 67 in your 4th edition. If you don't have the 4th edition, it's the table labeled percentage engaging in regular physical activity. Please take a note of that. So all adults, 49% are engaging in leisure time activity is what they're saying. And I find that fascinating. If you look at your Jackson County research, your Jackson County research is going to tell you that 22% of residents in Jackson County are meeting physical activity recommendations. So for your blog this week, I really want you to focus on that dynamic, and I want you to focus on those statistics. of your book is saying 49%, and underneath it says leisure time physical activity, 3 or more sessions per week, lasting 20 minutes, or 5 or more sessions per week, light or moderate, at least 3. So that's not necessarily meeting the recommendations. That's a little iffy there. So you have some leeway to kind of say that that's the reasoning behind it. But I want you to think more expansive. They're saying 50% of all adults. And here we are with the research in Jackson County done in 2018, and it is saying 22%. So again, that's what your blog is about, is for you to come up with a critique of why and provide explanation of the differences between the two. And just thinking sound, logical, using resources to kind of back up what you're thinking of the difference there, because that's a huge difference that should be explained and should be explored further. So again, that's your blog. I want you to discuss that, critique it, find ways that Jackson County could be different in total. Moving forward, so your book talks about physical activity levels based on pedometers. There's a lot of research out there suggesting pedometers might not be the best resource to use. They might not be as accurate. But I think you'll find a lot of research supports pedometers, and that pedometers promote activity. So, for example, I have a Fitbit on right this very second. It alerts me on the 50 mark that I need to get up and I need to walk or I need to breathe, etc. So it lets me know I've been sitting too long. I find that to be a good indicator and motivator to get up, because you're being reminded. Sometimes we don't know how long we've been sitting, and so it's hard for us to even think about if we're in a day-to-day life or if you're in a full-time position. So pedometers are helpful. They're useful. If you don't have one, that's perfectly fine. Our phones have them now. You can track them on your phone. There's apps, Apple Health, things of that nature. But I do want to put this out there. So on page 73, it gives you a chart, the top right-hand page, table 3.2. And it tells you the average steps per day, activity level, and what that kind of means as an indicator for fitness. Again, your physical fitness. So less than 5,000 steps, they are saying is sedentary. So they're using multiple different studies here from 2013, 2010. So they're not very recent studies. I think we would all probably be remiss if we did not say that there probably needs to be an updated study on this, but nonetheless, so multiple studies, 2 right here saying 5,000 steps or less is sedentary, 5,000 to about 7,500 is low activity, 7,500 to about 10,000 is somewhat active, 10,000 to 12,500 is active, and anything over 12,500 is very active. So that should give you a gauge of your fitness level overall, a very basic, simplistic view of your overall fitness level without doing a VO2 max, without doing a step test, without doing all of those other things, which we will talk about, just not in this chapter. We'll do some assessment later on when we get to the cardiovascular health, which will be potentially next week. So just thinking about those, your fitness level, your pedometer, keeping a track on your steps for the day. See if you can get more steps just to improve fitness level. And then your target training zone, which they give you a very good indicator on page 76. Training intensity, a lot of people feel like they need to be really high. They need to get their heart rate really high, which is not true. You actually burn more calories and you gain more good if you stay at a very, I don't want to say even keel, but if you stay within your moderate zone, which is your green zone, it's moderate intensity is what we're classifying it as. And we will get to your target heart rate zone probably next week, just so you have an indicator of what that looks like for you. And everyone's is different. No one's is the same. And that moderate to high intensity is where you should stay at. A lot of people think that running just one basic mile is doing them a lot of good, whenever in reality, if you really look at the research, just running a straight mile is actually not as beneficial as people think. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is beneficial, but the more that you can get your heart rate up and then bring it back down, heart rate up and bring it back down, you expend more calories and you also gain more muscle. So if you can get within your high intensity zone, get it back down, high intensity zone, get it back down, and then stay in your moderate intensity zone, I think you'll find that you'll burn more calories and you'll gain more muscle. But again, we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth next week. On page 77, it gives you just an idea of ACSM guidelines. So ACSM guidelines say that we should get 3 to 5 days of cardio, 2 to 3 days of strength training, and 2 to 3 days of flexibility. And then on page 77, it gives you kind of an idea of the FIT principle broken down based upon cardio, strength training, and flexibility. So take a look at that. If you have any questions, let me know. And then one of the last things I want to talk to you about is sore muscles. So sore muscles are not a bad thing. It means that one, you've not worked that muscle in a very long time, or you've probably overworked it. If anything, some suggestions your book gives you is some massage or foam roll. That's why they have those foam rollers. Check out some videos on YouTube for foam rolling. I would demonstrate for you, but to be honest with you guys, I am not the best demonstrator of foam foam rolling. It's not my area of expertise necessarily. Then the next thing is to kind of, continue to move those muscles. That's the best thing for you to do, is to continue to move those muscles versus sitting there. I think you'll find that if you sit there, because you're sore, you'll be even more sore the next day. So if you get up and you work out that soreness through low intensity, you'll feel a whole lot better than just kind of sitting stationary and letting that lactic acid build up even more in your muscles. And then the next thing to do is just to take some sort of pain medication. And I don't say that lightly or say that as a recommendation. I'm not a physician. So if it does hurt more than that, you should probably consult your physician. And then commonly related injuries, that's also on page 91. Check out ankle sprain, hamstring sprain, strain, shin splints, and knee injuries. Check out all those things. If you feel like you have that, then I strongly suggest that you consult your physician. So those are your notes for your chapter. I'm so sorry that it's a little bit long. I hope you stayed with me through the whole video. If you did, I'll have another video on your Jackson County Health.